and welcome to That Was News That Was. Dateline, I should know it because I've got to go to the hospital tomorrow. 26th July. What an amazing week it's been as usual. And I'll tell you what, until an hour ago I still didn't know what the three stories are going to be. But I'm going to start what happened in America. As we know, President Biden has wisely stood down. He had no chance. He made too many mistakes in his speeches. Unfortunately, that means that I can't see Kamala Harris. I was talking to Neil, my friend. We would discuss it most days about things. And he said the true thing is, women don't have never heard of a woman president being in America, a black woman president. And Trump has got them mesmerised. I think I mentioned they've now got bandages on their ears. You know, he's now started a new business, ear bandages. He's raising money any way he can. I'm going to say now, and I know that one or two people might resent what I'm saying, but I'll say it. I think it's a setup. Even though a man died, and that was unusual, I felt. Set up because you're shot. You go to the ground. A few seconds, and all you can say, fight, fight, fight. Normally you're dazed. He wasn't dazed. So that's the reason why. But let's start with the week here. Well, let's start with the King's speech. Really? God, it's only, what is it? No, it's not the King's. First week of Parliament. Wednesday, the first PMQs. Quite civilised. Of course, the good news was Nigel Farage was not there. He's in America. Funny enough, I know somebody asked him why was he doing America. He said he thought he had to go. So what about his constituency in Clacton? Sorry, mate, you're not important. And then somebody said to him, has anybody asked you to go? He refused to answer that. Then he said he felt he had to be. Why? I think he recognised that Trump is going to be president. He wants to get in with him. Not that Trump's interested in Farage. He's somebody. And for Trump's, going back to Trump for a minute, his vice president said that we're an Islamic country. Now, this could be just a way of getting attention, but no. Going back to here, so the first day, Prime Minister, and they were, Mr. Farage, Mr. Starmer, our Prime Minister, and Mr. Sunak, who is at the moment leader of the opposition, were very courteous to each other. And even Mr. Davey, who was the only other person to speak of the leadership, but it was a very cordial one. Let's wait till it goes. Unlike an incident that happened, which I know addressed, in which the Home Office Minister was talking and actually decided to use the whole time. All bills or things usually have an allotted time scale. And virtually, Kemi Badenock and a woman called Victoria Atkins were fighting to say something. Actual fighting. The speaker spoke about being respectful to people, but they're not. They're not respectful at all. So that's the, it's interesting because now we come to a very important point. It's called the leadership for the Conservatives. Mr. Sunak has said he doesn't want to stay on that long. They are talking. By November we'll know who it is. Now, according to the betting people, I'll say betting people, betting history, Kemi Badenock is the favourite. But the only three people who have declared themselves so far well, they've got a while to do it, are James Cleverly, who I don't think is that clever, Tom Kugendat, if I pronounce his name incorrectly, I apologise, and Robert Jenrick, who I knew would stand. He's been around, he's quite young, I thought he was older. He's only 42, but he's been around quite a while. He's had several posts in the cabinet, or supporting the cabinet. His latest one was Minister of Immigration, and he joined my favourite MP, as we know, Suella Braverman, in saying how it should be stopped. He was really for the boats. It's been revealed now, and this is the funny thing I find. Sorry, I'm going to jump around a lot. Is they stated that Rwanda's cost £700 million. Now I'm wondering why. Now, I have a theory, as I usually do, is that they're talking about the immigration bill. Because we paid France £350 million to stop the boats coming over. What did the French do? They said, oh, please, go ahead. You go across the road to Britain. They don't want them. So that, and then it was about 300 million being spent, plus a few bob more. So I reckon that's where £700 million is going. And the bad news is Rwanda has now said they're not going to get the money back. Now, they are using part of it to build buildings. But once again, it shows how the former government, the Conservative Party, was that bad. The amount of money they've lost over the years. I think of HS2, and they announced at the Conservative conference, no, we're not going to go to Manchester. The final part was Birmingham to Manchester. Well, in my eyes, I said at the time, they said, up you, Manchester, you're not important. But the money. But there's so many schemes. I remember years ago, there was something called Universal Job Match. Nice word, isn't it? Job Match. It was a computer system that was supposed to help you look for work. I used it a couple of times. I thought it was the worst thing in the world. It's very confusing. If you lost your password, and a few people did, and I knew what my password was, then getting it back was almost impossible. They'd paid a monster, I don't know if they're still going, a company called Monster. Please, somebody tell me if they're still going. £2 million to build the website. Blimey, I would have done it for a couple of bob. And it was useless. And they recognised it was useless. There was no trial. And how many times have we heard, the government's going to trial this out? I'm going to talk about something later on in this podcast I think is very important. But the waste of money. But I'm sorry, I was talking about the Conservative leadership badge. At the moment, only 3 people announced themselves. I'd said that 3 men. Kemi Badenock, who's the bookie's favourite, is supposed to, and so is Priti Patel. But you may remember Priti Patel runs a bondage company. How she treated the Home Office was brought to notice. Johnson at the time being Prime Minister, his ethics minister pointed out, and he ignored them. Now, I just say last week, Starmer's made an ethics minister, an ethics advisor, I should say that, not a minister. But, number one, the ethics minister can decide what he wants to investigate. He's got total free range. Where under Johnson, I would say, because after that you had no ethics person. With would listen, say, do this. It is ridiculous, isn't it? You're asking somebody to investigate something, but then you're putting tightrope in their way. You're tying them up in knots. This happens quite a lot. I'm just hearing just before I started this about the death, the destruction of people. I also read about the soldier killed, which happened this week, near the barracks, was not just a common soldier, it's a lieutenant colonel. That was not reported in the news. How can we stop this sort of thing? As you may remember, I had on Jackie Reed last year, so about knife crime. I think any sort of crime of that. I don't want to bring back the death penalty. That's the truth. Actually, it wouldn't stop young kids. My theory about why this violence is so prolificated, big words in it that made it up, but prolificated, is that most of these kids play computer games. They're not seeing what's happening. It's all fiction to them. So seeing somebody die on a screen, they think the same thing's going out there. It's happened this week to me. I had to go somewhere, got off the bus, started walking down. Now, I'm not very steady on my feet. I think I mentioned that before. Some little black kid walks by me muttering to me as I go by. I said, okay, son, you're okay? He said, I'm going to get you. Well, I might be an old man, but I won't allow violence to happen to me. I've got a few stories about those sort of things. I'm not a fighter. I don't believe in violence. I just said something, he walked on. But I think he saw me. The better story is years ago, I was a betting shop manager. I was living in Hackney. And what happened was I got on the bus and it was so bloody hot. I got to stop before and start before I walked. As I'm walking along, this little slim kid runs by me and this chubby kid runs by after him. I thought nothing of it, I didn't know what, they could be friends. Then a chubby kid comes up to me and says, give me all your money. I was shocked. Okay, I'm an old man. I was old then. I said, what? She said, give me all your money or you'll be sorry. So I said to him, I didn't raise my voice. I said, look, son, you better go and get your friends. Then the fight might be equal, but you've got no chance. And he ran off. I wasn't going to hit him. It's all bluff normally in fight. I've seen it. Some really violent people bluff because they look at them. I had a mate of mine who was I couldn't make more an acquaintance. The truth is, he was what they call a minder. He earned money by protecting people or looking after them. Very rarely. His size, he was about 6.5 foot tall, built like a brick house. You think you don't want to trouble him. Once actually, I was acting at the time, and to earn some money I had a market store, and that day I actually lost money. Didn't take enough of my license or the stock. I took about a tenner, I think, the whole day. So I made a lost money with that. I was pissed off. He come, how you doing here? I told him. He started joking, and I said, you do that again, I'm going to smash your face in. I think if I hadn't been angry, I would never have said that. And he just walked away. Because he could have taken me apart. No chance. I'd had no chance against him. But I think nowadays, remember I was brought up in a time where I wouldn't say violence was prevalent. Where I lived, violence was prevalent. But I say not take part in it. But kids don't. And that's why I think we have a lot of these knife crimes. But I've heard some terrible stories from that time. It is bad, isn't it? Where people believe that violence is the only way. Now the main story today is last Friday I sent an email to the press office at the Ministry of Housing because they deal with homelessness, and I asked 3 questions. I'd seen in an article that a building was being built from government funds for a council. A council would, I think it's £300,000 they got. I also want to know, because the King's speech never mentioned anything about homelessness, so what was the government going to do about it? And finally, I want to know who the homeless minister is. Yes, we have a minister of homeless. Now, I've had this before. Now, I've dealt mostly in the past with the DWP or even the Treasury. Very quick, very polite. So I sent last Friday. Wednesday morning I didn't see a reply, and let's say I got pissed off. Because I wanted it for this. So, I sent an email back. I thought here is a complaints procedure. I've had to use it once. I don't want to use it again. Sent it back. And instead of letting them think that I'm a nobody, I just said the truth. I said, look, I have contacts. I know the CEO of Crisis. I know him well. I also name dropped this Centre of Homeless Impact. I don't know them well, but why not? They don't. And there are other people I know in this field. I said, look, I rely, and if you look at it, I rely on information. I will not pass rumours to you. So I got a reply, what? This is recorded Wednesday. I got a reply yesterday evening. You'll get it by 5 o'clock. 5 o'clock, nothing. I thought, this is it, But I was busy writing the newsletter. And then when I finished, there was an email from me. Now, the third question has a link, but the link doesn't work, so I will be going back to it. But I want to read what they replied to me. And if you're not on my mailing list, I suggest you join my mailing list. This sort of information I share with the people in written form. I've cut and paste the questions. I asked why this council got the money. The reply was that the local authority housing fund, LAHF, nice title, provides capital funding directly to English councils. This fund will allow council to address immediate housing needs, and in the longer term will create a lasting legacy for UK nationals by building a sustainable stock of affordable housing for local communities. Now look what they're saying. The reason we don't have a housing stock now, to me, is obvious. When Thatcher brought a right to buy, which is a very good scheme, but she got about the people's children, other people. You got to have properties for people to live in. You can't just say, okay, I built this house, and the person's children are looking for somewhere to live. There's nowhere. But they then said immediate housing needs. The country is short of housing stock. Housing stock, I mean by houses or flats, whatever. It's short of it. So everyone wants this money. I don't know how much is in there. Building a sustainable stock of affordable housing for local communities is very important, although. Let's see what happens with that. That is something I'd like to know more about. And I'm going to tell you more what I'm going to do about it later. The next question was that I said in the King's speech there was no mention of how the government were going to tackle homelessness. And this is the gobbledygook I got, and it is gobbledygook. We are taking actions to tackle the root cause of homelessness by developing a long-term cross-government strategy, working with mayors and councils and delivering the biggest increase in social and affordable house building in a generation, and abolishing Section 21, no-fault evictions. Yeah, okay, I'll tell you now, finally, because they've always said they're going to abolish no-fault evictions, never mentioned the word Section 21. I thought, are they going to play a game? But Section 21, great, get rid of it, put it in touch. But this, just by building houses, does not tackle the root cause of homelessness. Imagine it. Well, I'll use the guy I spoke about a few weeks ago. A guy I met when I was on the street, 2006. He's still homeless. He has been in and out of places. I know that. And I suspected I suspected a couple of reasons. But he's been honest with me. He was in Edinburgh for a year and a half. He lost his place. Why? Bills. Think about it. I'm going to ask you all a question, and maybe some of you might answer me this. Were you told how to tackle bills? Were you informed? Were you said, this is how you do it, this is how you budget, this is what you've got to look at, make a list, and other things. Like when I was working in a young people's hostel, I created a whole training course, and it's on, maybe not on Maslow's, it's needs. It's no good going to a place, example, and at that time I had an Oyster card, and I got my freedom pass. It only goes up to 26. What happens after then? I got to walk. But seriously, so you need to know what the shops are, where the shops are, how close are you to the shops, what they supply is another thing. Is it good to have a place where, okay, great, terrific, you might have a supermarket nearby, but you've got all these stores, loads of them around. They're usually more expensive. Yes. So there we are. You've got to start budgeting again. It's no good, unless of course you want to walk to where the supermarket is. It might be a walk, might be a bus. But then you've got to know how you're going to top up your Oyster card. In London anyway. In London, if you don't have an Oyster card, you can't just go on a bus and give them money. I don't know about the rest of the country, maybe somebody will tell me. But you've got to have that Oyster card topped up. And there's minimum fares. It can be expensive. Got to know where you can say your electric bill. Now maybe you might have a phone, you can all do it on your phone, maybe you haven't got a bank account. I'll be surprised if nowadays nobody has a bank account, but there might be. All these things you've got to think about. What is the transport like? I would say that somebody should think, do they like where they are? It's no good walking into an area. And unfortunately, most of us look at a place. And we look at a place. And we think, oh, it's very beautiful, but we've only done a viewing. Before we know, at night time, now a friend of mine, where he's living, above, he's got these, I'll call them morons. They make noise, shout, they've got a dog who tracks all over the time, it's making more noise than them. I touch wood, apart from one place, I've been lucky. Always quiet. Here it's beautiful. I love quiet. I know what I would do if I was in my friend's place. I'd be in that person's door every time. Tell them to shut up. Yeah, but people don't listen. So there's little things. Can you take noise? I can't take noise, I must admit. I don't like it. But it's all these theories, isn't it? But let's go back to the answer. The biggest housing, it probably is because the Conservative Party kept on promising and they were always 50,000 short. But does that mean this government will? They are talking, I know about this plan, talking also going hand in hand with private development. Now let me share you another story. That I was in Elephant and Castle. Went to interview somebody for a newsletter I was writing. On the way back, behind Elephant and Castle is this last building being built. And I saw a copper there, a policeman, and he said to me, "Nice, isn't it?" "Yeah, it is." And he said, 10% is that for social housing. But who can afford it? Thought about that. Yeah. Got on the train, went home, putting down the radio. That 10% had been withdrawn because the company who building the building said they can't afford to give 10%. Now, how many companies, I'm wondering, maybe some expert might know or have time to look into, have said, "Yeah, we'll do this and we'll do this for your community if we can have the planning permission, not commission, and then don't do it." Because what they want, they're going to make doshes of money out of it. So I'm not so sure. Number two needs a lot of work on it, personally, myself. There is something called Housing First. I want to bring somebody on actually to talk about it. The idea is, in the old days, it used to be we get them clean and then we find them housing. Well, the idea is Housing First. You get them in a place and then you support them for it. The things. I approve of that scheme. But we have to see. So I don't think number 2 is a good enough answer for me, personally. Number 3, I want to know who the homeless minister was. Well, I've got to wait now, because the link they gave me didn't work. I've actually asked. Since I know you'll know on the if you're on my mailing list, there's a lot more you hear in my list. I've just written the latest newsletter, which is loads of facts, and that is, I put word for word what they said. Reply to me in the newsletter, because that's what I want to do. My subscribers, so I call that, get everything, and they don't pay a bloody penny. Although I would admit, ladies and gentlemen, I've got to start looking at raising money, because there are things I need. My microphone broke last week. I'm using this little crappy thing because I got no money. But I'm hoping to get a better microphone in about 2-3 weeks' time. But I still want to do more with this podcast. So that was the news that was. I think the main thing is what we can do about homelessness. To me, that's important. Forget about the Conservative leadership. I think they're going to kill themselves the way it's going. And America's going to be the next thing. Of course, sometime Farage will come back. Or maybe he might stay there. But there's a question for you. Maybe some of you might know the answer. A person as an office or as an MP, are there any standards for MPs to be at the air? I know that I heard Truss was very little in her constituency, so was Brotherman, but for some reason they liked that. But Truss, mainly, she lost its money. Anyway, that was it. If you have any comments, or maybe you want to join my mailing list, email me at Ian Cowman, that's per India Alpha November, Kilo Alpha Lima, Mike Alpha November at the initials GMX, GeorgeMichaelXray.com. And I hope you have a nice weekend.